Okay, well, hope everybody's having a good day. This is our second focus activity, 2 of 3. I get the third one on Monday. That'll be all in the first set, and then more than likely the last 2-3 weeks of this 6 weeks, we'll get a few more, starting with number 4 and then however far we're able to get. But those are going to be due on Wednesday. You picked up your homework assignment today. I believe we should be able to finish talking about cumulative frequency graphs. Go ahead and show you a couple of those today. So let's make the homework due Monday. Okay, that homework that you just picked up. So don't think it's going to be a whole lot. The big one, though, is what's happening next Thursday. That's your exam. Okay, and your topics are due. I'm glad you brought that up. So I do have extra copies. It is on the website. Several people have already approached me, kind of pitched their idea to me. So that is going to be due on Thursday. It is for a grade as well as the exam. So if you have any questions, so come on in. I'm here 7:45 every morning. Or if you want to come after school, just let me know ahead of time, and I'll see, if I have anything going on. But as far as the quiz yesterday, your class period 95.9. Class average. So you guys did really well. I think we're doing all right on frequency tables and box and whisker plots. And speaking of, I want to go ahead and show you now how to go ahead and start doing these on the calculator. Okay, so we have a frequency table now. I'm just going to go ahead and show you a general one first, because I think that there's a couple of different ways, and there's another way that I prefer, and it's the second way that I think is going to be better for you in the long run. But then on Monday, the other focus activity, that one I'm going to use to show you how to create a frequency histogram in the calculator as well. So let's go to the calculator. Okay. So let's say you just have a set of data. It's not a frequency table. You just have a set of numbers. Okay, so what you're going to want to do is input those into the calculator. So you can click 1 for a new document, or come down here, list and spreadsheet, whatever you want to do. Okay, it's going to bring you to this Excel screen. So we always want to go ahead and label our column. So I'm going to just call it X, because typically we refer to those elements as X. Now, the one thing you don't want to do, this row right here, has anybody ever had experience with Excel spreadsheet? Okay. Do you know how you would type in the formulas to have it perform some kind of operation between cells? You'd have to put equals and whatever. This is where you do that. Okay, so every time we go ahead and input data, you just want to avoid that row. Okay, it's going to go ahead and create additional points if you go ahead and do that. So just avoid this row. And let's just make up some numbers real fast before we go ahead and get to the real one. So let's say, I don't know, 2. And you have to push enter or arrow out of the cell in order to let it know it's done. So maybe 4, 4, I don't know, 6, 7, 8, 8, 9, 13, 15, 15, 16. I'm just making up a set of numbers. And let's say you're wanting to create a box and whisker plot on this, right? Okay. So just in case you're following along, I just went 2, 4, 4, 6, 7. Okay. Then I said 8, 8, 9, 13, 15, 15, 16. Just completely random set of numbers that I made up. Okay. Now here's something very useful, especially if you're putting in a large set of data. You don't have to scroll back to the top. If you push Control and 7, it takes you right back to your first data entry. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and show you how to take this and create a box and whisker plot. So once you got your data in, just like that, we're going to go ahead and go to your home screen. And now we want data and statistics right next to it. So this guy right here looks like a histogram. So you're going to click it, and it's just going to randomly place all of those values on your screen. So this is where you can hit your tab button, or if you use your touchpad, touch the bottom, okay, it'll bring up that one title that you put in for the column. If you go ahead and click it, oh, and I messed up, of course. Okay, hang on one second, because I did not mean to do that vertically, but it creates a dot plot for you. Okay, it's just going to make it vertical, and I'm not big on the vertical. So let me do this. Control up. Okay. Oh, maybe that's not it. Okay, so Control up. There we go. So let me go ahead and delete this one right here. That's weird. Okay, so let me go ahead and delete that one. Okay, so let's go back. Let me do that again very quickly. this right here, tab, okay, X, there we go. I just accidentally clicked it twice. There we go. So it creates a dot plot, but from here, if you go ahead and click menu, plot type, box plot, and it goes ahead and creates that for you. Oh, from here, while you have your dot graph, just click menu,
Yeah.
and it came up.
Yeah, it's like it won't let me click plot type.
Really? Is your dot graph showing up?
Yeah. I got my dot graph and I'm just like on, and I did click to add variable, and then when I try to click menu, it won't like plot type. It won't let me scroll up. You know what the option is?
Yeah, let me take a look. Oh, okay. So we don't see the dot plot yet. So let's escape out of there. So let's click. Oh, you have 15 documents open. Okay. What do you do? Yeah. Okay, so there we go. Once you see your dot graph, where it's actually lined up by the number of times that element appears, now try menu and it should work. Okay. And here's what's really nice about this. It would be good if I knew what all the values of the quartiles were. So if you just hover over it, it gives you that. The median is 8, 14, and 5 are your upper and lower quartiles. It gives you the minimum. So everything you need is right there. Okay. And you can play with that. You can do different things with it. But now, do me a favor. Go ahead. If you followed along, let's go ahead and erase this. Hit Control W. Do you want to save that? No. Okay. So now let's go to the focus activity. Okay, let's go ahead and plug that in. There's another way I'm going to show you to get all the same information, but I'm not going to show you the graph. In fact, I think this is the better way. I think it gives you way more than you need. Okay, so we've got Ranji, who's counting the number of bolts in several boxes and tabulates the data as follows. So how do I get to the spreadsheet? Okay, so spread right down here. Or if you don't want to click this icon, you can click one. Listen spreadsheets as the fourth one. Either way, there's a lot of different ways to do it on the calculator. So I'm going to put in X. That's going to be the number of bolts. And this other one's just going to be frequency. So I'll just type in FREQ for my frequency. Okay, so we have 33 all the way to 40. So 33, 34, 35, 36, 39, 40. Okay, so I put in the X values. What was that little shortcut to get back to the top? Control 7. So if you just hit Control 7, takes me right back up. And now we put in the frequency. So in the set, 33 shows up once. 34 showed up 5 times. 7, 13, 12. 38 was 8. 39 did not show up at all. And then 40 was 1. Okay. There you go. You always want to go ahead and either arrow out or push enter, because if you do this, if you're still in it, it's not going to read it. Even though you have a value in, it's going to read it as a mismatch. Okay. So now, what we're going to do, I'm going to walk you through the steps. If you want to go ahead and maybe write this in your notes on the focus activity so that you can remember how to go back, or, I'm sure Saturday night this weekend, what are you going to do? Hey, watch a math video. Maybe you'll want to revisit the classroom because it's so super awesome. Well, whatever you choose to do. From an open cell, you just have to choose an open cell in your spreadsheet. We're going to go to menu. Okay. So I'm going to hit menu, statistics, stat calculations. Okay. Now here's where people make the biggest mistake. Is this 1 or 2 variable? It's 1. Now remember, the frequency just tells me the number of times that element appears, right? Now if we're looking at something like a scatter plot where we're comparing 2 different quantities, then that's two sets of data. But this is really actually just 1. The frequency just tells me how many times that's showing up. Okay, so 1 variable. So let me go ahead and make sure we got that. Menu, where to go? Statistics, stat calculations, and 1 variable. Okay. So now when it comes up number of lists, even though you have 2 columns, just click OK. Now this is where you just have to make sure your headings are in there correctly. Your X list, the first column, go ahead and delete that. That's what I titled it. The first column was X. The second column, this is letting it know that that's the frequency. That's the number of times that the element appears. So if I click on it, I'm going to choose the frequency title I put there. And then right down here, it's going to tell you where it's going to put all your information. Right now it's telling you it's going to put it in column D. Normally I don't touch that. I mean, unless you just want to put it in another column, it's just going to appear. So does anybody need help with this? Okay, Eli, you did something wrong?
Maybe, but I think it's okay.
Okay, do you want me to go back?
I check because I can still take like this information and just the way we did previously, right?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you could also do that way as well. And I would encourage you, to practice with this, especially if this is something you feel you want to do on your IA. Okay, this is something you can definitely talk through. Now remember, on that, they don't want calculator notation, but it is okay to give visuals, things of that nature. All right, so I'm going to click OK, and you'll notice right over here in column D, it gives me everything about that set of data. What was X with the bar above it? That's the mean. So it already calculated the mean for you. It added up all of the terms in that set, so the total should be 1,704. Okay, this right here, that lowercase sigma that I've got highlighted, that's going to be very useful to you. That's the standard deviation. That's something we're going to start talking about next week. Okay, the number of terms, there were 47 terms here total. And this is what's really nice about this. Look what it already did for you. It gave you everything you needed. Now, it didn't give you the graph, but you see why I would kind of prefer this, because you can make the graph easily, but how much more information did this give you? A lot more information. Okay, so you guys have this on your screen, or some of you do at least. So let's go ahead and draw these. What's that? Or Eli, did you figure it out?
I was hovering over like the wrong cell.
Oh, okay.
Cut off like everything that's like right there, and it just went straight to like the standard deviation.
Got it.
Got
Got it. Okay, so it says find the 5-number summary for this set. So we can see that the minimum is 33. So let me come back over here to my deal here. Okay, so the minimum was 33. And then so I don't have to click back and forth. You guys just tell me, what was the lower quartile? 35. The median? 36. The upper quartile? 37. And then the max, 40. Okay, so we got that taken care of. Now it says find the range. Okay, so the range, what was that again? The maximum versus the minimum. Okay, so 40 minus 33, we got a range of 7. But what's the IQR? There you go. That's the interquartile range. So I want Q3 minus Q1. So that would give me 2. It says draw a box plot for the set of data. All right, so I'm just going to draw a line here. This is not going to be pretty, but we started at 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40. Okay, so let's see here. My median was at 36. 33, 45, 36. So we got that right there. Then Q3 was at 37. Then Q1 was at 35. So there's that. And then I had a maximum at 40. Okay. And then a minimum at 33. So just a rough sketch, but again, exactly what we've been dealing with. Okay. And then D, are there any outliers for this data? Okay, so how do we figure that out? What was the formula? Okay, so to find the lower one, we want to take Q1 minus, what is it? Okay, 1.5 times the IQR. Okay, and then for the upper, we want to take Q3 plus 1.5 times the IQR. Okay. You guys remember those from the other day? Okay. Okay, so Libby, you're saying no? Okay. So maybe this is something we want to go ahead and write down.
Yeah, I'm writing it down right now.
Okay, then we're good.
Can you refresh what outliers are?
An outlier is a value in a set that's radically different from all the rest. Like, for example, let's talk, maybe grades for a second. Let's say you're pretty consistent with your homework grades. I think I used this analogy the other day. But let's say maybe your first paper is a 100, then you have a 91, then maybe 87, then a 95. So you're keeping pretty consistent with your homework assignments. But let's say maybe you just bombed one for whatever reason, and then on it you got maybe a 23. Okay, that's an outlier. Okay, a value that is radically different from the norm of the set. Okay. All right, so our IQR was what? 2. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and replace these. Our Q1 was 35, right? Okay. And our Q3 was 37. Okay, so 35 minus 3 will give me 32. So I want to take a look at 32. Okay. Well, here's where 32 is. Does the whisker go beyond that? No, this is boundaries. So if the left whisker goes below that, that means we have an outlier. Okay, let's take a look above. So 37 plus 3. Okay, that would be 40. Okay. So this one here, the whisker actually hit it. So what do you think?
Does it count if it on it?
I would think yes. Okay. I would say if it hits it, it could still be considered an outlier. Now, if it was less than, what would you say? No. Okay. If it's within. So these are the boundaries. Once you find the boundaries using those expressions, if it goes below or above, right off the top of my head, I'm wanting to say yes, but let me double check on that, just to be on the safe side. Okay. Just to be on the safe side, but I'm pretty sure. Yes, Michelle. No. That doesn't mean you did anything wrong. I mean, that could just be some random piece of data that was collected. It doesn't mean that anything's done wrong. Now, I would recommend that you include outliers, because otherwise, that would drastically change your outcome if you didn't. And you'll see as we start going through more sets. Okay. What do you guys think? How easy is it to do that on the calculator? Pretty easy? Okay. But you see, like I said, I wanted to make sure that you could do it both by hand and on the calculator. All right, so 142. Good. All right, we'll go ahead and put that someplace safe with the other focus activity. You'll get the third one on Monday, and we will turn them in on Wednesday. Okay. You want to turn them in early, you're more than welcome to. Oh, and also, do me again a favor here. How do I get rid of the documents? Control W. So Control W. Do you want to save that? No. Because a lot of times people will come in and they just keep doing this over and over and over again. And sometimes it gets to the point where we could have, 20, 30 open documents.
Should we delete all of them?
Just delete all, yeah. Mm-hmm. And it gets to the point where it's so full sometimes that the calculator will say, you need to go ahead and lose some of these, but it won't allow you to because it's so full. And then I'll have to reset it using a paper clip on the back. But, I mean, that's not a big deal. I'm just letting you know, probably a good idea to go ahead and erase all your work every time you do it. Okay, so let's see. We are on cumulative frequency. Yes. No, but it's really cool that he looks like me. He's a little thicker than I am, but...
He's got a little bit more hair than you.
Oh, I was going for the positive one that, I'm thinner than that guy. But, yeah, he has more hair than me. It's true.
Well, I was just talking.
But, no, I understand. The resource that...
Adorably large chin. Very concerning.
The resource that I use occasionally has little comic characters kind of like jumping in to give you like a hint or something, and one was on that particular problem. So yes. All right, so let's see here. We've been talking about frequency tables and box and whisker plots. There was the original assignment. I didn't have you do that. I got you a better one. Okay, so we started talking about cumulative frequency the other day. And we didn't get the opportunity to continue talking about this yesterday because we did some in-class practice and then we did our quiz. So what is cumulative frequency? Like this column right here that I've got boxed in. Hey, Eli.
The frequency that like keeps adding up as you go through all the elements.
That's exactly right. I mean, you're taking a continual sum of all the frequencies as you go through the data. Okay, so what we have here of an event is the accumulation or sum of the frequencies up to and including that event. So we always start with the first one, okay, because this guy had a frequency of 1.65. So then plus 2, the second frequency gave me the 3. Plus the third frequency gave me the 5. Plus the 1, and you just go all the way through. And again, you should total up the number of elements that you have in your set. All right. And then cumulative relative frequency was just a percentage of that. Okay. That is probably not going to be as useful to us, but that's, one of the things we were talking about. Okay. And we got through here. Okay. And we are ready to go ahead and look at our first cumulative frequency graph. And I want to go ahead and do it based on this data right here. Okay. So I think this was talking about rod lengths. Is that right? So they went ahead and put them into classes. Now, a cumulative frequency graph is extremely useful in helping us to figure out what percentiles we're going to have. Okay. What percentiles we're going to have. So if you want to know at what element 50% of the data is below that, well, you'd find the 50th percentile. If you want to go ahead and find, well, how much of the data represents 37%, for example, okay, we'd be able to find that particular element, and below it, that would be 37%. So let me kind of walk you through this. If you're going to go ahead and graph a cumulative frequency curve, and it's broken up into these right here, if it's broken up into class intervals, you want to make the ordered pair out of the upper class interval, okay, and then the cumulative frequency. Okay, didn't leave myself quite enough room, but that's okay. All right, so the upper class interval, so whatever the largest value is in each of the classes, and then what the cumulative frequency is that corresponds to that. Okay. So like, for example, I would take the first ordered pair to be 1, okay, because the first class goes to 1, and then has a frequency of 1. So the first ordered pair would be 1, 1. Okay. What would the second ordered pair do? Okay. Then it would be 2 and 6, because 2 is the largest value in the second class, but it's the cumulative frequency. Okay. And then we'd have an ordered pair 3, 14, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and plot these, and you guys are just going to have to remind me what they were. So you've already got this grid. You'll notice there are 50 terms, so this is going to be my frequency. That's the vertical. Okay, so this is the cumulative frequency, and down here would be the upper class interval. Okay, so since my interval is the largest ones, I believe it just goes through 6. Is that right? Okay, I'll just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. Now, the general shape of a cumulative frequency graph, it's going to look like a lazy S. Okay, that's the best way to describe it. You're going to get something that looks like that. And I'll go ahead and tell you what ogive means in just a second, because I think you may have seen this. Has it come up yet? I think it comes up in just a second on the notes, but there's also another graph called an ogive graph, which you perform in just the same way. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and locate the point 1, 1. Now, let me go ahead and use a different color here because it might be a little easier for you folks to see. But if each one of these tiny little notches represents 1, and then horizontally every 5 is 1, then I would have 1, 1 right here. Remember, that's the upper value for the very first class interval with that cumulative frequency of 1. Okay, there was that first point, 1, 1 we were talking about. Then the second one was 2, was it 2, 6? Okay, so 2, 6, so I'm going to go 2, 6 will be right here. Okay, and I'll just go ahead and click back. So we got 2, 6, then I would have what? 3, 14, then 4, 17. Okay, so 3, 14 would be right here. 4, 17. What else we got? Oh, I went too far back. Then it looks like 531. 531 and 650. Okay, so 531. So 510. Okay, 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 31. Okay, and then 650. So 50 would get us all the way to the top. Okay. And now here's the thing on this. What I mentioned a second ago, what's called an ogive graph, it's basically the exact same thing. You're going to go ahead and graph it the same way, these points, but instead of putting a smooth curve through it, you put just straight lines. Okay, so don't draw this on your paper. I'm just going to go ahead and show you this very quickly. So you would just connect all these with straight segments. Okay, if you connect them with straight segments, that's what we call an ogive graph. Okay, if I go ahead and connect it with a smooth curve, that's what we call a cumulative frequency graph. Okay, and really, I guess it just depends on which one you prefer. If you think you're going to get a better response out of the straight lines or straight segments instead of the curve, whatever you like. Okay, so I'm going to use a different color on this. Let's go green, because green's awesome. Okay, so I just try to put a curve through that as best I can. So there's my cumulative frequency curve. Yes, ma'am. Well, because we're trying to add those frequencies as we go along. So we have to believe that we should take the largest value. It's just a difference in how we find it. If we're just estimating the mean, we go with the midpoint. If we're going to go ahead and plot these, we go with the upper value. Okay. All right. So is everybody okay with how we graph that? Does anybody have any questions? Hey.
So how come you only use the largest values? Is that what she is?
Yes. It's just, I don't think I'm going to have a satisfactory answer off the top of my head. I know that's what we do. I can make a note to myself to ask our resident statistician. Does anybody know Mr. Reeves? Okay, he is the person that we go to because I am by no means a statistician. I mean, I can understand and I work with the data, but sometimes the exact why, even my best answer is going to be, I don't know. So I'll tell you what, I will find out.
I feel like it's just because, like, when we're finding the mean, we're supposed to use the middle value, that represents all the values. But when we're making a graph like this, you might want to use the higher one just because it's not bigger.
Okay. I mean, it does sound reasonable. Okay. But let me go to him. He's actually gone today because I believe, don't we have a volleyball game in Odessa? Okay. Or is it a scrimmage, so it's not an actual game? Okay. But he's gone today for that, so hopefully I can take a few minutes of his time on Monday and have an answer for that by the time you guys get back. Okay. So let's see here. The cumulative frequency curve can be used to find the percentage of data below a certain value. Percentiles are those values of the data below which certain percentages of the frequencies lie. So, for example, the 25th percentile, the value that has 25% of the frequencies below it. So that means the element that when you were to order it, all the elements that come before it would represent 25% of the data. Okay? And the same thing goes for the 50th percentile and the 75th percentile. So this is where we're going to have to do a little bit of calculation. So let's actually go ahead and calculate that. So the 75th percentile, remember, how many terms do we have? Okay, we have, no, that's the upper class intervals. We have how many total? 50. So our value of n is going to be 50 here, right? So what I need to do first, if I want the 75th percentile, then I need to go ahead and multiply 75% times 50. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and take 0.75 times 50. And somebody help me out on the calculator. 37.5. Okay. So 37.5. So here's what I'm going to go ahead and do. I'm now going to locate that 37.5 term and see where it connects on the graph. So this is going to tell me in what class it falls and what real term I'm looking at. Okay. So if I'm looking at about the 37th term, once I go ahead and put all these guys in order, every term that comes below it, and including that, represents 75% of the data. Is everybody okay with what we're doing? Okay. So let's see here. We're counting these by fives. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35. So let's say 37.5 would be right here. Okay. So I'm going to go right here, and then I'm going to go straight down. Just like you're looking for a point on the XY axis. Okay. So it looks to me like what class interval is that showing up in? Yeah, from 5 to 6. Okay. Okay, so from one element found in that class interval from 5 to 6, below it, that would represent 75% of the data. Is everybody okay with that? Okay, so in this case, I mean, we're also talking about links, so let's kind of make maybe a better connection here. We did go ahead and put these into class intervals, like in this case from 5 to 6, but remember we also had the original data. Okay, so we knew what these actual values were. Okay, so one of those is going to represent the 75th percentile. So in this case, now remember we just graphed this by hand. We've got 5.5 and 5.75. So if I were to come over here, okay, I'm probably going to say that's closer to 5.5. Remember, there's going to be a little bit of error because we're doing it by hand. It's not going to be perfect. Okay. I know that sounds sketchy, but because I drew it by hand, sketchy. You'll laugh later. Okay. All right. So go ahead. You want to try the next one for me? Okay. We're trying to find the median. Okay. So even though this one was a little off, we got about like 5.1. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and say 5.5 because that represents the closest element in the set we had, right? So from everything 5.5 down, that's 75% of the data. Okay. Now back to this question B. Well, what percentile do you think the median is? 50. It's 50%, right? So we probably don't need a calculator for this one. What's half of 50? Okay, so use your graph. Let's see what you get when you go ahead and connect it with these lines. Okay, a vertical and a horizontal. Okay. You got the same?
Oh, wait, no. My bad.
Okay. Okay. Let me do this in a different color so that we can see this a little better. What color would you like?
Neon green.
Neon green? I don't know that I have that one. Well, I guess I do. Okay. So will it let me do it now? Hey. All right. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. So here is where 25 would be. That's going to be the median. That's the 50th percentile because the median is half of the data. All right. So from that location, I'm going to go straight across. And as soon as I hit that curve, I'm going to go straight down. Okay. So it's really close. Looks like I went a little over. I'd say about 4.5. Okay. So this curve is helping me find the one element in the data that represents how much of the data is below it. So again, just make the connection. If we go all the way back, see all these numbers that we originally looked at? Okay. If I were to put them in order from smallest to greatest, we just got 4.5, right? Okay. On our graph, so 4.5. So that means everything less than that would represent 50% of everything we have here. Okay, just like a moment ago when we found 5.5, everything below that would represent 75%. Is everybody okay with what we're doing? Is there anybody confused? No? Okay. Let's go ahead and try this next one. The 30th percentile.
That would be 15.
Okay, 15. So I'd multiply 0.3 times 50. Okay, and you got 15?
Wait, that's 600.
615?
So, I, yes, 15.
Yeah, it's 15, right? Yeah. Okay. Confusing me, Eli. Okay, that's okay. I'm easily confused. Would anybody like to come on up and show me what they'd get? A lot of hands. Whoa, whoa. I just did too many hands. I just need one. Okay. I'll even go one better. Okay. We need to find what term. Okay, 15. Okay, is part of the cumulative frequency. I'll go ahead and, let's go purple. So 15 would be right here. All you have to do is come up, draw across, and go straight down when you hit the graph. Couldn't be easier. Gabby? Okay. Now, Gabby, you've come up before too, right? You haven't? I thought you came up on something. Okay. No, okay. Maybe. Yeah, there you go. Because I know everybody's sitting out there, man, I really want the chance to come up here, but it's a long school year, so don't worry. You'll get your chance. Okay. All right. So what do we think? What would you estimate that to be? Probably about, because these are divided up by fives, maybe a 3.2. Okay, about a 3.2. What did I get when I did this? I got 3.5, so that means my graph is not perfect. Okay, well, let's go ahead and just stick with what we got here. All right. And then our last one, the 25th percentile. Okay. Would anybody like to do this? Okay. Samir, correct? Okay. And has anybody figured out what is 25% of 50? It is 12.5. Okay. So this one's going to be an even a little more awkward because you're going to have to go half, between 12 and 13 vertically. And then you go straight across until you hit the graph, and then we go straight down. So what would you say there? 2.8? Okay. All right. And in fact, that is exactly what I had on my paper. That's what I got. 2.8. Perfect. Good. Okay. Questions? Yes, ma'am. They're slightly off, and usually what I'll do is definitely don't expect the graphs to be perfect, but it should be, as I always say, in the neighborhood. So like, for example, this one right here, if I had the answer was 2.8, okay, I would probably go ahead and set a range, like one above and one below. Okay, I think that should be enough of a leeway. So I would go to 3.8 and 1.8, and if you got anywhere in that, I would still count it right. Okay, because I think that'd be pretty crappy if I said 2.8 and you said 2.6. I'm like, you're wrong. I said 2.8. You know what I mean? So yeah. Now, if you're using technology, then it's a different story. Then we should be getting exact values. Okay. How are we doing? Perfect. Okay. Like it. Okay, so we've only got a couple of other parts here. Now, like this next page is actually stuff that we've already talked about. Okay, most of it, thinking of it anyway. We found the mean of sets of data. This one's also asking me to find the median and mode. We've done that. I'll go ahead and let you guys decide. That's really more review than anything. Do you want to go ahead and take a look at that? Because this next part here, it wants you to go ahead and find the mean from a frequency table. And what did we have our homework and quiz over? I mean, doing that exactly. So if you guys decide that you want to go ahead and take a look at that again, maybe to get some extra practice, we can absolutely do that. What I'd be probably more interested in is working another one of these cumulative frequency graphs. Okay, so let's go ahead and do this. We didn't quite finish today, and I'm okay with that. So you have your homework assignment. Let's do this. Let's have that due on Tuesday. Okay. What I'll do, we'll come in here on Monday. We'll go ahead and work this problem. If you guys decide you want to go back and practice on a few of those others, we will absolutely do that. But with whatever time we have left in class, I'll go ahead and let you work on the assignment. We'll have it due Tuesday. That sound good? And then on Tuesday, we get with standard deviation, and we should be good to go. Okay. All right, 2:04. So we got 5 minutes. If I can get those calculators back on the